Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really passionate viewpoint that's getting a lot of attention. Why some black voters are shifting away from the Democratic Party. We're going to unpack the arguments made by the channel A Righteous Perspective, which lays out a very clear case for this change. Okay, so right off the bat, the source material hits you with this question. It's pretty provocative, right? And it really sets the stage for the entire argument. The whole thing is built around this idea, this feeling of being replaced, and it directly challenges what the Democratic Party is prioritizing for its voters. All right, so to really get a handle on this viewpoint, we're going to look at it in 4 parts. Think of them as building blocks. We'll start with the political side of things, and then dig into the personal philosophy that's really driving it all. First up, this idea of a political replacement. At its core, this is a direct grievance against the Democratic Party, and it's all about a perceived betrayal of its black voter base. So the argument here is that there's this huge gap between the promise and the reality. On one hand, you have the promise to protect black interests and really represent the community. But according to this perspective, the reality is that other groups are being prioritized. It's this feeling that the black vote is just taken for granted, and that what you're getting is, as the source puts it, more style than actual substance. And the source doesn't just talk in generalities. It calls out specific leaders by name, accusing them of selling what it calls a lie, the idea that the party truly has the black community's best interests at heart. The main critique is that they're all talk and no action, failing to deliver real results. And this quote, this really gets to the heart of the frustration you hear in the source material. It's this feeling that if you're a black voter and you decide to leave the party, your choice isn't seen as legitimate. Instead, it's just dismissed. You're told you've been brainwashed. Okay, now let's dig a little deeper. This political break we've been talking about, it's really tied to a personal philosophy. The source material pushes back hard against what it sees as a narrative of victimhood and systemic barriers. I mean, talk about a defiant challenge. The argument being made here is that in America today, race isn't the thing holding people back. It's a complete rejection of the idea that opportunities are somehow closed off to black Americans. And to make this point, the speaker uses their own life story as evidence. By pointing to their background, as a felon with no college degree, they're arguing that personal drive is what truly matters. The mindset of blaming race, they say, is what really holds you back. So that brings us to our next point. Building on that idea of personal drive, the source really champions this philosophy of fierce individualism and, good old-fashioned competition. This is presented as the real path to success, no matter who you are or where you come from. And again, this isn't just theory. The speaker points to their own 15-year career in corporate America as proof. They talk about working in a commission-based kind of eat-what-you-kill world, where the only thing that mattered were the numbers you put up. Skin color, they argue, had absolutely nothing to do with it. This is a fascinating point. The idea here is that just the concept of merit-based success, of being able to say, I'll outwork you, is a direct threat to a political narrative that's built on this idea of oppressed versus oppressor. A focus on individual achievement from this viewpoint really shakes up that whole framework. So what holds all this together? What's the big picture framework? Well, the source points to a very specific political playbook that it's fighting against and a moral code that it's fighting for. And here's the playbook. The source specifically calls out Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. It argues that this book from 1971 is basically the strategic guide for its political opponents. The claim is that their actions aren't random at all, but part of a calculated plan to gain and hold power. Then, the argument takes a sharp turn toward the spiritual. It uses the Bible to make a case for law and order. This is a way to reframe the debate, especially around issues like border security, by contrasting what it calls divine order with man-made chaos. And that chaos isn't just an abstract idea. The source connects it to real-world consequences, pointing to things like what happened in Minneapolis, where a lot of police officers quit. From this perspective, that's not compassion. It's a failure of order that ends up hurting the very citizens who follow the law. And this quote? Wow, this is really where it all comes together. For the speaker, this was the moment that sealed the deal. It wasn't just about politics anymore. A public declaration of faith became the ultimate confirmation, the thing that proved they'd made the right choice. It's where the political, the personal, and the spiritual all just merge into one. So, in the end, this perspective isn't just about one or two policies. It's a whole worldview that really challenges those long held political lines. It's a mix of personal responsibility, free market thinking, and Christian faith, all wrapped into a unique political identity. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about.